Welcome to the Mark Peterson Show, the alarm clock for your brain, waking you up to issues of business, politics, and news from a blackish point of view. Today's show is called Back of the Starbucks Bus. Why are we calling it that? Because Starbucks recently ran into trouble after two black real estate entrepreneurs were arrested in one of its Philly corporate stores while waiting for a friend of theirs to show up and discuss real estate opportunities with them. Now, this is quite ironic because in 2015, Starbucks started a campaign called Race Together, a campaign where they wanted baristas to initiate conversations with its customers around issues of race. A bold move, which was met with criticism and optimism, depending on your point of view and your perspective. Starbucks didn't shy away from controversy. They were the first Fortune 500 to say that they would hire 10,000 Syrian refugees at a time when the nation was debating whether or not they wanted to welcome those individuals into the country. In fact, there was a global discussion around whether or not these refugees should be welcomed into many European nations. Starbucks dipped its toe in the water and said, we will welcome them. So this comes as a complete surprise that a company with left-leaning tendencies would have an issue where a manager would call the police and have two black men who had stated openly to the employees that they were waiting for a friend to come and discuss real estate opportunities. A friend, by the way, who turned out to be Caucasian. Now, why am I calling it Back of the Bus at Starbucks? Because it reminds me so much of what happened in the 1960s with the bus boycott and the Dr. King-led civil rights movement of that time. This reminds me so much of that period in time. October 19th, 1960, Dr. King was arrested during a sit-in at the Magnolia Room in Rich's department store in Atlanta, Georgia. At Rich's, African Americans could purchase items from the store, but not allowed to try on clothing or sit at a table in the Magnolia Room. This sit-in took place 8 months after the famous sit-in at F.W. Woolworth Company's lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina, a whites-only lunch counter. Dr. King and his fellow protesters were arrested for violating statutes which allowed individuals to be charged with a misdemeanor if they refuse to leave private property when asked. Now, on April 12th, 2018, at Starbucks, 58 years after Dr. King was arrested for doing essentially the same thing, two black men, two black real estate entrepreneurs, were arrested waiting at a table at Starbucks in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, let me unpack this for you. The manager of the store, like what happened with Dr. King, were asked to leave because they asked to use the restroom without making a purchase. The men stated that they were waiting for their friend, Andrew Yaffe, to discuss real estate opportunities, and when he arrived, they would order at that point. No conversation about race was happening at that point because the manager dialed 911 for assistance. 6 police officers showed up to deal with the two men who were peacefully sitting at a table waiting on a friend to show up. Something that I've witnessed, if not 100 times, 200 times at Starbucks when I've gone and purchased a latte at one of their stores. People waiting on other people for interviews, for discussions, they wait till they show up and order. You know, it's a respect thing. But 6 police officers showed up and, based on reports, asked the men to leave 3 times. Before they were arrested, Andrew Yaffe shows up and witnesses his 2 friends being cuffed and being removed from the Starbucks. He demanded to know what the charges were and what they had done wrong, and several of the store customers explained to the officers that they had done nothing wrong other than wait for their friend to show up and have coffee with them and discuss real estate opportunities. Nothing wrong. Had done nothing wrong. Refusing to leave, that was their crime. The CEO of Starbucks, Kevin Johnson, has said that this was a horrible incident. He has taken full blame, saying it is a leadership problem, not a store manager problem. Explaining that store policy was to ask individuals who had not made a purchase to leave. Now that's what shocked me, because Starbucks markets itself as a community. A community. And community means that you know the people who live and work alongside you. I would say that that manager has not been taught how to build community. Because his first reaction was to ask someone who was asking to use the restroom to leave. Doesn't sound to me like he explained their corporate policy that I can't let you use the restroom unless you order something. I'm sure if he had explained that in a way to these 2 gentlemen, they would have complied. I've seen that happen, where managers have explained that policy, people have ordered bottles of water, and gone in and used the restroom. But in this case, it was escalated to have a brigade of 6 officers show up to deal with 2 peaceful African-American real estate entrepreneurs. So Kevin Johnson says the blame is with him. The latte stops with him. Here's a thought. Why not teach the managers how to execute what you market? That Starbucks is a community. Well, the CEO, Kevin Johnson, has gone and taken one more step by announcing on May 29, 2018, that all 8,000 domestic Starbucks stores will close in the evening for racial sensitivity training following the arrest of the 2 black real estate entrepreneurs at that Philly store. As an executive coach with Sierra Consulting, I think I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to recommend that the CEO of Starbucks do the following. First, stop training employees on race and train them to execute what you market, that Starbucks is a community. How about you post the golden rule, Luke 6:31, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, in every break room. Number 2, stop sending conflicting messages. In Johnson's first public comments, he accepts responsibility. He says it is a leadership problem, quote unquote. Now, he's to be commended for taking accountability, for saying that the big latte stops with him. But despite his statement, Johnson's first action is to retrain employees. If leadership is truly the problem, Johnson's first action should have been to retrain the corporate executives. How about he send each executive to manage stores in diverse areas? Teach them how to build community, and they can lead the employees on how to do the same. Dollars to donut that more than half of the Starbucks executives have not been in a room where they've had to manage or work in a diverse community. So how are they expected to lead a brand that's all about community? By announcing employee training without requiring executive accountability, Starbucks risk demoralizing the baristas that they asked to have a conversation about race. Number 3, update store manager promotion tracks to include rotations in stores with diverse demographic makeups. Yeah, rotate them all. If you're black, you shouldn't get away with just serving black customers. Move you to a different environment so that you learn how to walk a mile in every community's shoes. I see the Marriott do that. I've seen people from New York go down and have to spend time in the Puerto Rico facility. And those from Puerto Rico sent up to New York, so that they get an understanding of the corporate operations, but more importantly, how to handle a diverse set of customers. It broadens your perspective. It gives you a greater understanding of what customers need and how to fulfill your value proposition to those communities. How about number 4? Require that each Starbucks store manager have a mentor, preferably another store manager with more tenure, so that they can have a sounding board to bounce ideas off of before they escalate store issues. When you have that sort of an arrangement, you have a community within a community that can help you pass along the war stories that help you retain the culture of the company. Number 5, and this is where it becomes real because you cement it into what motivates every employee: money. Update the store KPIs to include a community score. Yeah. Send out surveys to customers and ask how well are these employees doing at building community. 2 to 3 questions. Hey, did the barista know your name? Did they ask about your day? Stuff that relates to real people in real communities. Turn that survey into a community score and use it alongside other financial metrics to determine bonuses. When you make it a real incentive, people will pay attention. Kevin Johnson has a real opportunity to move Starbucks beyond race by embracing the company's core value proposition, that they serve beverages that build communities. Now, most of us love Starbucks. I know I do. I use the app, go there nearly every day, because 1, it is a guerrillapreneur hangout, which is the title of my book, Guerrillapreneur, Small Business Strategy for Davids Wanting to Defeat Goliaths. They offer internet and have for a very long time before internet became affordable for us to have it everywhere. So as a guerrillapreneur, I turned the Starbucks tables into my office, as do many guerrillapreneurs, saving money and using free Wi-Fi. So I'm not going to let you off the hook because you are part of the community and you have a responsibility to help Starbucks learn the lessons of community by doing your part. And what is your part? Your part is to make them understand that your dollars can reward other people who also focus on community. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up an account with a community bank that has invested in businesses in local communities like the ones where the two black real estate executives live. The best one I found is One United Bank. Black-owned bank that has an online capability, so I don't have to go find a branch in order to open this account. Since I go to Starbucks nearly every day and get a latte, an iced lemon pound cake, and sometimes a blueberry yogurt muffin, but don't tell my doctor, I'm going to take one of those days and put the money that I would spend at Starbucks in One United Bank. I'm not saying that you have to. I'm asking you to if you care about community and you want to see real change. I'm not much for protesting. Quite frankly, I got bad bunions. But really, I want to see significant change, and that's not going to come from me standing in Starbucks with a sign and shouting at the people who had nothing to do with the corporate policy. The people at corporate respond when financials change, when competition heats up. The best way for me to get their attention is to take dollars that I would spend with them and invest with people who can finance competition. Starbucks started out as a small chain. They grew because people believed in the quality of the coffee and the community that they created. And it's real. You don't believe me? Walk into a Dunkin' Donuts, walk into a Starbucks and tell me the culture is not different. The feel is not different. The community is not different. So we believed in that. Doesn't mean, though, that we can't believe in another company that gets it right consistently. The second thing I'm going to do is I am going to take a second day that I would invest at Starbucks and invest that in a black-owned coffee shop. Yeah, I'm going to go buy one of their lattes. I'm going to go sit at their table. I'm going to ask for their Wi-Fi password. And I'm going to work at that shop. I'm going to take a picture of their coffee cup and I'm going to post it online with the hashtag backofthestarbucksbus to remind those corporate executives that it is important that they never put any of their community members in the back of the bus. We should never be afraid to ask to use the restroom at a community-oriented Starbucks. We should never be afraid that we won't be believed when we say we're waiting on a friend and then we're going to order. Because if that's the way Starbucks plans to manage moving forward, we can reward stores and local businesses that want to create that community for us. So I'm going to do that because I feel as a member of this community, it's my job as well to educate corporate executives through my actions. Yeah, I can, as a consultant, advise the CEO on all the different things that corporate could do. But it's important that we take a step and be consistent in those steps so that they have the impact that's intended. Now, I know some of you are saying, Mark, $3.75 for a latte, if you take that, and put that in an account, what is that really going to do? Well, over the course of a year, that's going to add up. And let's just say you get to a point where you have just $1,000 in that bank account. You're going, well, that's not significant. Oh, yes, it is. $1,000 has the multiplier effect that has a $10,000 impact on the community, because banks can lend 10 times of what they have invested in terms of savings on their balance sheet. So to know that your mighty dollar has a 10 times multiplier to it should be encouraging you to save even more with local banks that invest in local businesses. If you want to change your community, it starts there. And then secondly, the effect of shopping locally versus the corporate giants that have forgotten what real community means. That creates a cycle effect where those dollars turn over more and more in your own community. And finally, you can't beat practicing what you preach. I learned that in college. We were protesting against our college because they were invested in South Africa during a time of apartheid. And we wanted them to divest as much as $17 million from the foundation that funded a lot of scholarships, because we strongly believed that that was the right thing to do. Now, as the leader of one of the organizations, I put forth the notion that if we were going to ask the college to divest, we should be willing to give up something ourselves. So I said I was going to give up Coca-Cola, because Coca-Cola at the time had investments, both direct and indirect, in South Africa. I went around campus and put up probably the first hashtag on a college campus, the word sacrifice on every Coke machine, which started a dialogue on the campus which led to the removal of all the Coke machines out of every dorm. The protests escalated, and other colleges started to do the same. Now, what broke my heart was the fact that African American students, and including those who were sympathetic to our cause, were still drinking Coca-Cola. And even, unfortunately, a South African student said he couldn't give it up. Taught me a powerful lesson, that change is hard because it requires you to be consistent, which is why I'm recommending that you don't boycott Starbucks. I'm not going to. 5 days out of the week, I'm going to be there. The other 2 days, I'm going to dedicate to initiating change through my dollars and my actions. That's fair, I think. That's fair. Kevin Johnson has a real opportunity, and so do we, to make this discussion about something real, about real communities, about real people, and about real change. If we initiate the stuff that we're talking about here in today's show, we won't be talking about lattes and race a year from now. We won't be worrying about real estate executives or what color they are and whether or not they're waiting on a friend. We'll be talking about significant employment and significant change and significant drops in crime, because all of these things are the building blocks for real community. Thank you for your time today. I promised you that I would follow up on the braiding licensing requirements in Tennessee, and we're all over that. You're going to have to tune in and keep tuning in to the Mark Peterson Show, because we are the alarm clock for your brain, waking you up to issues in business and politics from a blackish perspective. I'm out of here. Peace.